starting up. Well, hey there, Carney Masters Dynasty League fans. We are live again on another fantastic Wednesday. Here with Brad Olson.
Yes, still here.
And Jarvis Culler.
My shoulders hurt.
And myself.
Who are you carrying?
I got a flu shot today.
Aw, no puking out of both ends for you.
Right.
Alrighty. Well, we got about 10 minutes until the waivers run. So actually, we got about 8 minutes until the waivers run. So why don't we hop right into this week's waivers and see who the big pickups will be.
I didn't see a whole lot, but I think first off would probably be Kiki QT with just that performance, his first game out ever, just being a rookie. And Bruce Ellington's on IR. Fuller's still trying to outpace his soft tissue injuries all the time, so he might have more opportunity even out throughout the whole year, not just last week. So I think he's going to be high on the waiver list.
And that's what I was going to ask: is if Kiki Kuti is he just a filler for when Fuller is out, or is he actually going to have some sort of relevance going forward?
I think he's the number 3 probably going forward because no Ellington and.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that for sure.
I was looking. There's a couple other receivers possible fill-ins, maybe like Mohamed Sanu. Jordan Matthews could get picked up possibly. But Cameron Brate's got to be probably the second highest possibly. I didn't look to see if anybody had any tight end problems, but he's going to have some playing time for the next 3 to 6 weeks.
Absolutely. As long as O.J. Howard is out, and even when he comes back, we all know Jameis Winston has like a man crush on Cameron Brate and just likes to focus on him a lot of times. So even with O.J. Howard coming out of the gates really hot, having those big games, I think with the shift in the quarterback, with Winston coming back and starting, and O.J. Howard out for a little while, I absolutely think Cameron Brate has a lot of upside for at least the next couple weeks.
Oh, and I agree.
And even maybe when he comes back too, when Howard comes back too.
Brate will definitely be the man. Not a surprise if he would get 20 points a week in the next. Howard's out 3-4 weeks.
3 to 6, right? 3 to 4.
Yeah, well,
something like that. 3 to 4, I think, is what it is.
It's at least 3 to 4, but you say if Howie come back from the injury, so you might get an extra 2 weeks in there, but. And Eifert going down. Croft showed up last year. When Eifert was out, he had 42 receptions, 404 yards, and 7 touchdowns without Eifert being in there. So I would think people would look at Croft also. And then any taxi squad room, I'm still pumping Ian Thomas. We'll see if anybody ends up picking him up.
Who?
The tight end in Carolina.
Oh.
Under the radar.
Under the radar.
I think he's under the doormat, isn't he?
No. And possibly this week, maybe a fill-in 1 week shot wonder could be Marquez Vandal-Scantling. Geronimo Allison has a concussion. In protocol, hasn't cleared yet, and Cobb is dealing with some injuries. So
this is the Green Bay wide receiver.
Correct.
I have a sneaking suspicion his name will get brought up later in the episode.
Oh.
Ooh.
Then I kind of just had a couple guys. I don't know if anybody be looking at Mike Davis, but that just seems to be a running
three-way committee
carousel more than a committee.
That's the Seattle big running back there.
Yeah,
it's kind of turning into your whole New England backfield, which pick your poison on who's actually going to go off for a week. Mike Davis didn't do anything the whole year until week 4. And then he goes off.
And he did well at the end of last year when they needed to use him, and he came in. But they just decided that they go out and draft Penny, and Carson, which showed up in preseason, was outdoing everybody. But now Carson was dealing with injuries, and Penny hasn't showed up yet. So
the only place Penny has showed up, it looks like he's shown up at a buffet. I feel like he looks a little chubby, doesn't he?
Now, didn't Penny have 9 carries for good yardage last week, if memory serves?
I don't remember, and that's a bad sign.
On your fantasy football ability or my memory?
No, it's a bad sign. Like, if it wasn't memorable and nothing stood out, then
Gotcha.
he had 9 carries, 49 yards. So the
5.5 yards to carry.
that's not bad. That's not bad. Did he have any receptions?
no targets.
No targets.
I don't think he's going to be much of a receiving back there in Seattle.
And maybe one other guy somewhere down the road. I see Kalen Ballage is out there, and that might be a guy to put on a taxi squad. You know, Gore should be gone by next year, but who knows with that coaching staff.
Well, you know, with Gore, he is still out touching. You know, what's his name? The other guy, the terrible guy, Drake. Sorry,
Drake.
I still had Cameron Brate stuck in my head.
The Drake.
And you know, at 35
Why is
years,
no one using him?
you know, at 35 years old, you know, here's Frank Gore still plodding away. You know, 11 for 41, nothing special. 2 for 16, but he, you know, got a touchdown out of the deal.
I'm just surprised Gruden never went after him.
He would have been a good.
Oh,
fit
that's
there.
right. Lynch is there. So,
Yeah.
So Gase is taking on inner Jay Gruden, wanting to let Gore run. That's all I got for waiver wire.
Okay, let's.
Well, maybe 2 linebackers. That was about it.
Yeah, there are a couple of linebackers.
You want me to name them?
I'm showing them on the screen as we speak. Are you talking Clowney, or are you going more Anthony Walker?
No, Anthony Walker, just because Darius Leonard could miss some time. He had a walking boot on Tuesday, had limited practice today, so we'll wait to see if he actually plays Thursday night or not. And if he doesn't, that could be an interesting pickup because he showed up.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
And okay. I kind of thought Jalen Smith might be picked up since Sean Lee being out, and looked like he's starting to catch on.
Right now, there's just almost a dozen linebackers sitting out there in free agency that scored 10 points or above last week. We'll see what kind of feeding frenzy happens this week. Let's dive into the news real quick of the week before we actually take a look at how the waivers ran this week. The suspensions that ended this week. Mark Ingram, that's huge. Big ramifications, not only for him, but also for Kamara's production. Now, I'm blown away by Kamara.
He's on pace for over 1,000 rushing yards and like 1,300 receiving yards right now.
I would have never picked him for a 1,000-yard back. The other guy coming off a suspension is Julian Edelman. He's supposedly going to be brought along slow.
And Brady came out today that he has no doubt that Edelman will be ready right out to shoot. So.
Yeah. Would anybody actually sit him this
I don't
week?
think you can. I think you have to put him in.
I agree, especially with the weak wide receiver core there. The other big one is Le'Veon Bell supposedly going to be coming in after week 7. Will he be brought along slowly?
I heard something funny today on one show that is like, I heard that he got traded.
What?
But it wasn't in the NFL. It was in my dynasty league or something.
Now, I still say that any kind of trade rumors are dead. Nobody's going to give up a second rounder and a player that the Steelers are asking
for just a short-term rental.
And Bell cannot sign a long-term contract this year. He can sign a bigger contract this year, but he cannot sign a long-term contract until the season's over with any team. So you can transition tag him next year, which apparently the Steelers had threatened to do already. We'll see how that transpires.
But I think that he comes in and he has a pretty big workhorse load right away.
Yeah, James Conner he's not getting it done in the running game. He's far exceeded my expectations in the passing game. This is a kid that never caught more than like 25 passes in any given year in college. And I think he's almost at the 25 catch mark already this year.
And there's only 1 week that they even let him attempt more than 15 attempts, and that was just the first week. Correct. So
in muddy conditions.
That was against the Browns. So they just wanted to ram it down their throat.
Yep. And not to waste their time doing it, in a couple of other losses since then.
Connor could have a big game this week. Falcons are pretty beat up on that defense, so we'll see.
We'll see how long they have the ball. The other big thing is Winston regaining his starting gig from Ryan, I'm 4,000 years old, Fitzmagic. The guy just shoots himself in the foot. Anytime he starts off good, he ends up becoming a turnover king and loses whatever credibility he mustered the first couple of weeks in any season.
Yeah, we've seen this movie before.
Yeah, but Winston didn't take the roost right back. He played exactly the way that Fitzpatrick did.
I don't think so. He did have an interception, but he was also getting
one less interception, almost the same amount of yards, maybe a couple more completions because Fitzpatrick had a couple of drops from his receivers. Otherwise, they would almost be exactly the same.
But his interception he was getting hit by Khalil Mack. So that's where I'll stick up for Winston there.
Yeah, we gotta actually put some blame on the Bears defense, though, don't we?
Oh, I think they're leading the league in everything defensively.
I'm not saying that Fitzpatrick should start the rest of the year, but it didn't look good for either of them.
No, Fitzpatrick is what he is, though. He's a turnover machine. Sam Bradford demoted to the third string. This might sound kind of odd, but what it really is, it's a money-saving salary cap stash for the Cardinals. In Bradford's contract, he has
playing time clauses.
Yeah. For each game, I believe he was going to make like $320,000. So by being on the active roster, well, making him third string, they're going to save a bunch of money. They'll eat $5 million next year. He won't be with them next year.
Or we'll see if Rosen's able to stay healthy. Maybe he'll have to play some more this year. Who knows?
The last one is Robbie Anderson will not be suspended. That's actually a fairly big shock.
It may be a shock to him. Maybe that'll put a little fire in his pants to start doing something this year.
That's
he's only as good as Josh McCown is in there.
Actually, he was pretty friendly with Patty, though.
That's true. McCown. That's true. But yeah, since Darnold took over, Robbie Anderson has all but disappeared.
Well,
did they change OCs at all? Or was that the same? I hadn't followed that, so I don't know if there was an OC change.
I don't know off the top of my head.
That's a good question.
You wouldn't think so because McCown was still there, so I doubt if they did any changes. But
well, that's all I have for the news for the week. Let's go ahead and hop over to the waivers and let's see how they ran.
They just ran. There's a lot of activity.
More than expected. I'm trying to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got Sanu at $93.
Yep. Terrell Pryor takes the boot. That's a good move, Gary.
Yeah, very good move, Gary.
Wow.
Mike Davis, some $84.
How did you get QT for 50 cents?
Yeah, I saw that. He was buried in my waiver deal there, as you can see. But I was able to land Taylor Gabriel.
Break goes for $7.
That's the one that jumped out at me. That's the one that jumped out at me. I was like, wow.
If I only had $7.
Yeah, you blew a big chunk of your fab last week, didn't
Yes,
you?
I did.
Had to. But yeah, Tyler Croft gets added, for $850. Cameron Brate for $7. I think both of those are two really good ads, especially with the amount of money that was spent or the lack thereof. Those are two really good additions.
Absolutely. The big thing, I got shut out on Frank Gore too.
Well, I missed Gore being available somehow when I was looking at it.
I thought I could get him for $2.01.
That's a good pickup for Luke. At $3.33.
It is,
especially if he needs help.
You look at it right now. He's out touching Drake. He is the number one running back in Miami right now. What's it worth? It's hard to say.
I'm looking here. Stefan added Darren Lee and Josh Bynes and dropped no one. Did he have two available roster spots?
He needs to absolutely be making drops. I really need to start hammering down on this pretty doggone hard. When people are not making drops for players.
And if he has the room,
yeah, he's sitting on 22 now.
Yep.
This is not some pansy ass league where you get to make your drops whenever. You got to make your drops at the same time.
I do what I want.
The alternative is
sit in the corner with the dunce hat on,
or we just take your players right off your team. It's not fair if everybody else is going to follow the same rules. So that's a little bothersome. I'll get off my soapbox now.
But no, I mean that needs to be corrected though. It really does.
You ready to do the injury recap for the week, Mr. Olson?
This thing is a fuck book. I don't know. I think every team or player just decided to whine and then just put them all on the list. What was going on? We'll try it out, but I didn't see any quarterbacks. I think they came out unscathed, maybe a little bit of bruises here and there, but nothing significant. And unless somebody saw something I didn't.
No, not anything that really jumps out to me.
No, I don't think so either.
Running backs, they're all just got little dings. Breida played through, supposedly has a shoulder injury, but was limited on Wednesday. I still think he's going to go. He played through it already. Fournette's been ruled out, so he's probably on another week or two.
And that's the big one is he's coming off of a soft tissue injury that has a good chance of reoccurrence. And if you're not 100% healthy, you can easily just re-injure that and go all the way back to ground zero. And it looks like that's the case here because he's out indefinitely. They don't even really have a time frame on this.
Yeah,
and he missed time last year too for I believe the same injury.
Yeah, and so that's frustrating. That's super frustrating as a Fournette owner. JJ's got to be pretty pissed off about that because again, was there really a need for him to rush back this week? If he knew that he was still running and he was feeling that tightness and something, pulling in there, why do it? Why do it? And you have a healthy TJ Yeldon, you have a healthy Corey Grant now.
And that's a big one for Luke there. He has TJ Yeldon again.
Some players just don't learn that they need a little more time and think they can go out there. Anyway, after Fournette, Mixon's still in process of coming back. Was limited in practice on Wednesday. Hasn't gained clearance, I think, for contact yet. So it's a wait and see on him.
Keeping our fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm. But didn't he come out and say that he's ready to go?
There's not just him, but there's a few other places I think he's going to play. So we'll see. I just couldn't get any definite occurrence or somebody that said it would happen. Devontae Freeman.
He sounds like he's a go.
Good.
Yep. So Quinn came out and said he's good to go, I think.
He believes he's good to go.
Yeah.
He was limited today, and he hasn't gone full yet.
Mm-hmm.
But
And that's another guy that's really struggling to stay healthy the last couple of years. A young guy, too.
Delvin Cook did not practice today. Still likely to play. He did play some the week before, so you think he's on track to getting a little bit healthier and getting some more snaps.
Do you think he's still on a snap count this week coming up?
I could see it. I just
And that's a player Mike really would kind of need. He's got Marlon Mack as well, who has already been ruled out for the week.
Yep, he's on the list too. Yep, already ruled out for Thursday.
And like we were talking, Mike's also got Rashard Penny, who doesn't do him any good, so he's going to have to roll with Carlos Hyde and Cook if he plays, or does he have nothing? Well, he's got Chubb on his taxi, but I'm sure
You don't. Yeah, he probably won't want to bring him up.
No.
He's got to roll with those two.
I was
Nick
gonna
Chubb,
say
first player in NFL history to have
3 carries.
3 carries with 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
yawn. Useless baseball stats right there.
Hey, it's still fun.
Uh-huh.
There's plenty of people that have dug in and said they looked at some of those runs and he hadn't looked this good up until that game, and one of those runs looked exactly how he looked in college. So there's a lot of hype waiting to see if they're going to give him some more carries or not. Anyway, Peterson's still dealing with ankle, coming off the bye. Need to watch practice the rest of the week to see if he's going to go. Chris Carson expected back this week. Corey Clement, Darren Sproles, they both didn't practice today. I think it's doubtful that they play. Maybe Clement, but Sproles doesn't look like it's going to go. Bernard came up late last week in the game, didn't practice today, and you need to monitor him because with Mixon on the way back, maybe they give Bernard a little bit of rest.
Well, and their third running back got hurt in that game as well.
Yeah, Walton, yep. Wide receivers, you got Will Fuller with the hamstring, limited practice. Likely will play, but uncertain. Randall Cobb, hamstring, did not practice today. Considered extremely doubtful to play this week. T.Y. Hilton has been ruled out for Thursday night. Devontae Parker now is dealing with a quad injury. So as soon as one thing heals up on him, womb opens up on the other side or something. Yeah.
Wonder who's got him.
This guy just needs to go away. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he just needs to stay healthy and then, produce like Julio.
I don't think he has the NFL DNA or the NFL mentality to want to play.
I think a lot of his issues really are that he just is not in shape. And you got to be in football shape so you can absorb some of these injuries, so you don't deal with these nagging little injuries that cost you games. It must have been a pretty serious break of a finger if you're going to miss 3 games just for a finger.
Ask
And
Hopkins if he's missing time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's him.
I just think he's not good.
He doesn't want to be good. Anyway, Dante Pettis has been ruled out. Goodwin still dealing with a hamstring. Didn't practice today. Sammy Watkins also dealing with a hamstring. Limited practice today. But he was able to play through it on Monday night. But we'll see if it is he able to get a little bit more healed up. And Antonio Callaway didn't practice today. That was kind of a surprise. He was spotted riding on a stationary bike.
And Hugh Jackson came out today and said that he's confident that he'll be good to go for Week 5.
Oh, they need him.
But they're looking to scale down his usage, which
Why?
I don't understand.
I think that was
part.
just.
I mean, why would you scale down your number one wide receiver?
He's not their number one.
Well, okay. Besides Landry.
Yeah.
My bad.
Already went over Geronimo Allison, still in concussion protocol. Now, it was kind of a bad week for tight ends. Disley went to IR, torn patella. Eifert goes down yet again, out for season, broken ankle.
That guy just needs to retire.
He does.
Yeah, that's another guy. The DNA does not serve him well. He just cannot stay healthy. Gronk's on a limited practice this week.
He needs to retire too.
No.
Yeah,
Just because he plays for
Please,
the Patriots.
Just leave
Yeah.
the Patriots.
But no, all signs are indicating that he's going to be good go Thursday. It didn't seem like it was going to be that big.
I
of a
heard
deal.
it both ways. So
And then plus his new contract is structured around incentivizing him to be on the field.
True.
So he'll be. I believe he'll play Thursday.
just target the angle, right?
Or,
Sweep-
or the
Sweep the leg, Danny. Sweep the leg.
There was speculation he misses from certain pundits. So Doyle's been ruled out again.
Oh, Doyle doesn't rule.
Evan Ingram's still recovering. Hayden Hurst is getting very close to coming back. He's still practicing on a limited base. Coach thinks he makes it back this week, but maybe on a snap count.
Now that's actually pretty significant for Will. Will made a good move. I didn't see what he paid for Tyler Croft,
$8.50, I believe.
Yeah, more than Brate.
but he was, with Eifert being gone for the year and Hayden Hurst being down. Hayden Hurst wasn't going to help him anyway, but still made a good move and picked up Croft.
It'll be interesting to see how that though works out with Uzma still there.
Agreed.
Uzma,
He was there last year too, so
and Uzma took a lot of the snap share after Eifert went down this week.
this week.
So
But
we'll see.
If you play off of what happened last year, Croft showed up more than Uzma.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think Croft is the one to have. And again, I have to do it, Flip. There's a kicker with a groin injury, and he's on Steffen's
boy.
team. He has to monitor this.
I got to just mute this guy right here. No more Brad.
But he plays Thursday night.
Blah, blah, blah.
Ooh.
And so if Steffen wants to possibly get caught with 0 points, he needs to know this information. You're welcome, Steffen.
Steffen's, it's a little too late because our waivers ran.
Just ran, yeah. So
And did Steffen...
and there's no free for all.
Oh, there's no free.
There's no free-for-all.
Next waiver runs Friday, so
Well, there should be something for the Thursday night.
oh, you
games.
missed him. Go back up.
How am I missing him here?
He's up one more.
Why do you punish
There
the
you go.
people who play on Thursday night? You don't have one little free for all for those.
So
guys.
Vinatieri.
And Vinatieri plays on Thursday?
Yep.
Okay. I do need to make a
kicker rule. Maybe
well,
you can
no, I
pick
got to
up-
actually make a change because for him to actually put in a lineup, it's going to force him to stick Vinatieri in there. So,
Well, he has to.
well, no, he can waivers run on Friday,
Yeah, but they play Thursday.
Thursday.
but he can drop him and pick up a kicker on Friday.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But the system's going to make him start him.
I see what you're saying.
So this actually happened to Mike a couple of weeks
True,
ago.
true.
But
Okay.
when Mike got a hold of me, it was right
There's
at
the
kickoff.
loophole.
Yep.
So
Always
so
a loophole.
Uh-huh.
Mike had to take a 0 at the linebacker position because of it.
I have a strong suspicion that Stefan would not have thought of that had Flip not even brought that up.
Well,
I wouldn't have. I know
Stefan
that.
wouldn't have thought about it if Brad hadn't have brought it up. All right.
I was just doing my job, man.
Enough of the kicker graph. Let's
Yeah, there's no more kickers, so
Let's go ahead and
just some linebackers. But
all right. Well, we're gonna skip the linebackers. We're killing it on time.
Darius
already.
Leonard, D Ford, Sean Lee, KJ Wright.
All right. KJ Wright's been hurt for weeks, so
Yes, since week 1.
okay. Let's go ahead and head to the recap of week 4.
Yeah, so week 4 is in the books. We had a really interesting scenario play itself out, one that I don't remember seeing before. Wow. And I'll hit that here in a little bit, but just a quick recap of the current divisional standings. After week 4, in Division 1, we've got Kroll. We got Mean Machine leading the way at 5-2. Steel Curtain right behind at 4-3. Gary with Thunderstruck at 2-5, and then Mike with Two Buck Chup at
Mike
1-6.
Mike is just a shock there.
It is. It's an absolute shock that I thought he was going to be one of the strongest teams coming in, and for whatever reason, it's just nothing.
It's
but
not like that he's scoring well either.
no, but hey, the year is still very young. We play 2 games a week, and so he's still in this. Absolutely. We flash down Division 2. What can Brown do for you? Coming in at 5-2. The Donkeys 5-2. FNG third place and at 3-4, and then Kiss the Rings, at 1-6. And then Division 3, we got Insane Clowny Posse at 6-1. Real Walrus 6-1, K-Town Crazies and Corn Ranch both at 2-5. So how this week played out, we had, let's see, 1, 2, 3. We had 3 teams go 2-0. That would be Shannon with the Donkeys, myself, and Real Walrus going 2-0 this week. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams go 1-1. Splitting this week, we got Mean Machine, Steel Curtain, Thunderstruck, F&G, K-Town Crazies, and Corn Ranch all going 1-1. And then Mike, Two Buck Chup, 0-2, and then Kiss the Rings, 0-2. So the one thing that played out this week that I don't remember ever seeing is we had a guy in contention for High Point go 0-2. That's crazy. Will put up 215 points and went 0-2. Flip, have you seen that?
No,
Not in this league.
Not that high.
That's why I hate the double headers.
That's what makes the double hitters good. Well, okay. On the flip side, look at some of these other guys that did take some of these tough losses. Yeah, I got beat up pretty bad by Jarvis, but I scored enough to secure a second win. And there's other guys. Corn Ranch, I believe, went 1-1 because of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, Flip versus Tori. I mean, Flip, you had 164, Tori had 159. You only, that was a 5-point game. We had Darky versus JJ, and that was a 5-point game. So we had some really close matchups. It's just really wild to see 3 different teams, score over 200 points and then score into the teens, and
look at Kroll. Kroll's a prime example here. 186. And he wins against Darky at 163, but he turns around and loses to Shannon at 216 or 214.
Yeah, and then we had a new high point this week. I'm very proud to say that was me at 219.09. So as of now through week 4, that is the high point mark to beat.
Cheater.
But now that was just really crazy. Seeing Will score so well and go 0-2.
We'll see if that 219 holds up. I don't believe it's held up either of the first 2 years. I don't
think it will. I think with the scoring tendencies and the trends going this year, there's 40 more touchdowns through week 4 than there was last year. So there's a lot. There's some big scores getting put up. So it wouldn't shock me one bit to see High Point walk away with this year being 230, 240.
It's going down because not just the offense is scoring. There's no defenses being played. I mean, you have maybe the Bears. Baltimore seems to be doing fairly well. Mm-hmm. Who's the other one that's coming to mind?
Well, and two, if you've noticed so far, what have the running backs, like the big name running backs, done other than Kamara? Zeke's up there, but your big name guys are just not producing. So this is kind of turning into the year of the wide receiver, and you can score big points in a hurry if that's the case.
You might see more running when it gets colder, though.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, let's head into our supers and poopers section. The fan favorite section here.
Supers and poopers.
All right. Well, throw out your supers and poopers there, Mr. Jarvis.
So, my super this week, there's there's a lot of guys, in consideration here, but the one guy that jumped out to me had to be Corey Davis. For Luke. I mean, this guy's finally, showing his trademarks of, being that first round guy that Tennessee took a chance on. You had 9 receptions, 161 yards, a touchdown. This guy had 15 targets. Now that Rashad Higgins is out of the picture, this is his team. And it was really good to see this guy finally come into his own.
Who are we talking about?
Corey Davis.
I said Rashard Matthews. Did I say Higgins?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah, Rashard Matthews. Now that he's gone, this is Corey Davis's team, and like I said, this guy's a first-round pick. It was just really exciting to see him get that target share that I felt that, once he actually got, he would do something like this. And so going forward, I think the sky's the limit with this guy.
Just
So
crazy watching Mariota do something that looked like it was number 1 draft pick.
absolutely, and this guy's 23 years old. He's there. He's poised to be around for a while. And again, with that pairing with Marcus Mariota being a young quarterback, this could be a dynamic duo for a long time to come. And for a team, with Luke, this is a guy that he's going to want to hang on to and could be a centerpiece to, his offense going forward.
Agreed. And your stinker, your pooper for the week?
Oh, we're only doing one apiece this time?
Oops, I'm sorry. Brad, your super is up. My bad.
Oh, man. There was 24 players with over 100 yards receiving this week.
I know. Tell me about it.
It was hard to whittle down. I mean, you could have named anybody off of any team almost.
We're just wanting you to name one, though.
I hate to say it, but I will go with Jared Cook.
Blah.
Yeah, that's right. Almost.
Oh, come on. How can you?
No,
For one,
it's a great selection.
he had 31 points,
Agreed.
8 receptions, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns, 13 targets. Now, what's even more amazing is that he's had a 10-year career, and out of those 10 years, he has had only 5 overall tight end 1 weeks. And now he's had 2 in this year alone.
Wow, that's
So
That is coming off a 667 yard year last year. That's not.
but he was
slouch.
just in the pool of everybody.
Agreed.
and you can see from here he looks just as inconsistent as Amari Cooper. So
Yeah. Well, 27, 9, 8, 31.
But you have to put him in the super category because he's not
no
known to do
question,
this.
absolutely, you have to.
And Darky did start him.
Yep.
I'm not sure if he had a choice, but he did. My super, I'm gonna eat some. See, I'm gonna eat some crow here.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. That was actually Brad, not a sound effect. Michael Trubisky,
Who?
whatever the hell his name is.
Mitchell.
Michael, Mitchell, Fred.
No, if you're gonna put Trubisky in there, you have to put the Bucks defense with an asterisk next to that name.
But
Look at
6
this
touchdowns,
performance.
354 yards. But I mean, look at that, 19 of 26, 354. You're talking almost 20 yards of completion there.
Did they have any defensive backs out there?
And this doesn't include 53 yards rushing on top of that. That's just some. How could you start him though?
Well, he's on my team, and I decided to go ahead and roster Ben Roethlisberger over him, and that's a decision I stand beside. I don't think anybody would have made a different decision.
And
this week you're gonna
that's
start
that's a
Berger.
wise choice.
Going against that Atlanta
That's
defense.
right. That's right.
I'm not a fan of this kid. I really am not. He's generally inconsistent. You can see that coming into the week. He had more interceptions than he had touchdowns.
His best friend is his coach. He's gonna get as much as he can out of him. We'll see if he ever.
And last year he was absolutely nothing special.
You see, but I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. I actually kind of like this kid. He's young. He's kind of coming into his own. They got Matt Nagy in there now. They're surrounding him with some offensive weapons. He's young. They're putting the future in his hands. I actually like him.
I like the other quarterbacks in last year's class over over him. So that's just me. I'm just not a fan of him. Well, let's go with your pooper here, Jarvis.
Tori, my man, I'm sorry to say it, but what is going on with Kenyon Drake? Guy had 3 rushing attempts for 3 yards. 1 reception, 13 yards, only 2 targets, came in at a whopping 2.6 points.
He had more yards per carry than he did last week.
If you look at his last week combined with this week, he's got 8 attempts for 6 yards.
And 3 targets.
What in the world? Now, this guy is actually supremely talented. I really believe that. What's happening there? Is Adam Gase, like, does he just not like this guy? Or what are your takeaways? Because I don't understand the
this
usage.
is going to go hand in hand with my pooper. Because I put Adam Gase and Dowell Loggins as my pooper. It's just for this fact that they're not getting Drake involved. And yes, it's Dowell Loggins' first year being OC in Miami, but
Could be
you
his
got
last.
to get a clue.
You have to. It just doesn't compute. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
You know, they kind of did the same thing when Lamar Miller was there, and Gase basically ran him out of town.
Yeah, I went from Miller to
Absolutely.
Ajayi, and then they didn't want to use Ajayi after he actually did 200-yard rushings in one season, and then the next year they're like, who's this guy? And then they're like, we need Drake in there. No, yeah, Drake. Now we got Drake and Gore, and it's like, well, Gore, you can go in there a little bit more.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Gore going forward until he actually starts.
Yeah, I would too. And unfortunately, I think that right now this puts Torrey in a particular situation because with Kenyon Drake, he's like, what do? You can't start him with any sort of confidence.
No,
you can't drop him. Certainly,
no.
No, someone would pick him up.
But you can't trade him either. Like no one's gonna give you what you feel he's worth right now. So
without it being in a pack.
And right now his trade doesn't look good.
You have to stash him, and you have to play Nyheim Hines this week.
I think he's got to play Hines. He's got to play Hines and David Johnson this week.
And Hines could have a good game because most likely they'll be behind. So, and that's Hines' game right there.
You can't start Derrick Henry or Deion Lewis right now, I don't think.
You could look to Deion Lewis though, I think, but right now you can't start Kenyon Drake with any sort of confidence. And to me, 4 weeks into the season, that just it's one of the bigger surprises of the year.
My bad on Deion Lewis. I didn't realize he did have 9 receptions this past week. I knew he had struggled the 2 weeks before.
Brad.
Yeah, I already told you.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah,
Yep.
He went the conventional route and didn't pick a player. Mine was pretty easy.
Oh man, are we going back to Miami?
Yeah, we're gonna just
going to Miami.
We're just gonna put our tent.
My conventional was very grounded.
We all got our tank tops in here.
Ryan Tannehill, 11 completions, 20 attempts.
We can have the 3 Amera poopers.
100 yards passing out of a quarterback in the NFL. How does that happen if it's not a monsoon? This is up against the Patriots defense, which is absolutely nothing special.
And getting lit up.
Well, getting lit up is no surprise, but not being able to put up any kind of yardage.
Yeah, but look
at this though. Okay,
20 attempts.
You have 20 attempts. You have 20 attempts, and you had Kenyon Drake with 3 rushing attempts. Like, was their offense on the field at all? Because here's something I want to point out is another one of my guys that was in contention for my super this week was Derek Carr. He was 35 of 58. He had 58 passing opportunities. Tannehill completed the whole game with 20.
That's just bad team management. For the pooper Miami Dolphins.
And Gore had 11 attempts and had 3 targets, so still that's only 14 more touches on the offense.
All right,
Wow.
let's go
That's
ahead and
pretty
transition into
And they were 3-0 going into this week, by the way.
let's transition to more Brad commentary. No, we'll
It's viable information.
it always is. We'll go ahead and go with the start, sets, and sleepers. Jarvis?
Yeah,
Take us away.
so kick you off with three of my favorite starts this week. I'm going to go back to a guy who come off of a big week again. Going to Gary's team. I'm going to pick Matt Ryan this week. You know, he's going against Flip's beloved Steelers. I think that with the two defenses on the field, this could turn out to be a shootout game.
Shootout.
It will be a shootout.
Yeah. You got two susceptible defenses. Pittsburgh has allowed over 1,200 passing yards through the air. Atlanta has allowed over 1,136 yards through the air. I feel that this is going to be a game where Ryan could potentially be throwing, 40, 50 attempts this week. And we've seen how, the emergence of Calvin Ridley coming up. You got Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman, pass options out of the backfield, the explosive Julio Jones that is afraid of catching a touchdown pass this year for some reason.
Terrified.
I don't think that's all his fault. However, that's still another big shocker for me. But yeah, I see Matt Ryan having a big game this week. My second guy I think is going to be an absolute must start. Christian McCaffrey. Go down to Darky's team. Christian McCaffrey. Dude is just getting heavily targeted, heavily involved in this offense. They're going up against the Giants D. He had over 30 touches last week. We got 28 attempts, 184 yards. The two targets kind of surprised me, but he was carrying the ball so much. He was making the most of everything. So this guy, I mean, look at his scoring through this, the first 3 weeks. And he's coming off of a bye. He's going to be rested. He's going to be healthy. Look for Christian McCaffrey to have a big game this week against the Giants defense that's susceptible to that.
27th against a run.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, just what Kamara did to him last week, McCaffrey could do the same.
Well, and look at their passing options in Carolina. I mean, you got some guys that are banged up, and they don't really have like a solidified number one right now, so they're going to be relying on the ground game.
Isn't Curtis Samuel coming back this week?
I'm not 100% sure.
I was thinking he was coming back from from his heart condition this week, so that would actually be a big lift there.
Yeah,
but we'll see if it.
But yeah, so Darky, feel good about starting Christian McCaffrey this week. Then I'm going to go to Melvin Gordon. He's going up against the Raiders. So they're giving up over 139 yards per game. And the Chargers are 21st right now versus the pass. So I think this is going to be another high-scoring game, and especially with, like, Melvin Gordon being such a threat coming out of the backfield with those targets. Boom, I'm looking forward to another big game from him. And look at what he's done so far. I don't see any reason why that trend doesn't continue against the Raiders. And we saw what Baker Mayfield and the Browns did to the Raiders. I mean, they, what was that, a 40-some point performance? Like, Raiders are giving up points. They love to give up points. So.
Yeah, and the Raiders, for anybody who didn't watch that game, the Raiders the Browns were absolutely robbed by the refs in that game on a first down call.
They were.
It was terrible.
The Browns, man, they should be 3-1, maybe even 4-0 right now.
Agreed.
But so yeah, 3 of my favorite starts this week: Matt Ryan against the Steelers, Christian McCaffrey against the Giants, and then Melvin Gordon against the Raiders.
I will throw a little plug in here. Since we were bashing on the Steelers secondary, I will be posting an article where I will actually be bashing on Joe Hayden tomorrow on the website that I do write for. I will shamelessly plug that. So be looking for that fun and interesting read.
Matt Ryan surely will look at it.
I'm sure he will.
He's a big fan.
Yeah, he's a follower of yours, isn't he?
I'm going to assume that Joe Hayden is going to unfollow me on both Twitter and Facebook, but I'm okay with that. He can go back to Cleveland.
Okay, so some guys that I'm not so confident about this week. We're going to go up to Minnesota. Dalvin Cook. Sorry, Mike. Got to bring him up again. We talked briefly about this a little earlier in the show. We're going up against Philly. They're number one right now versus the rush, versus the run. And the possibility that Dalvin Cook could still potentially be on somewhat of a snap count is kind of concerning to me. I mean, in a game that I feel could be a little bit more pass heavy. So I'm not super confident in him coming off this injury. Questionable whether he's even, 100%. And with that Philly defense,
and Minnesota offensive line not opening up holes for their running backs either.
They've got some offensive line issues right now, and until that all gets worked out and Dalvin Cook is back to 100%, I'm going to be a little bit weary, especially against the number one rated team against the rush. So
if you were Mike, what would you do? Do you start Dalvin? Do you go with Penny? Surely you don't pull Chubb off your taxi. Should he have gone out for Gore?
Well, I mean, he could have. I mean, if he knew. I mean, I for one, I think all of us in here shared that surprise when we found out that Frank Gore was still available out there. So he may not have even known. One thing he could do, he's got some wide receiver options. He could potentially look to make a trade with somebody. If he's not feeling super confident about rostering Dalvin Cook this week, may not hurt.
He does have some wide receiver options too, but how confidence would you have with Gordon, with Meredith, with Paul Richardson producing in the future?
Not a lot, unfortunately.
Maybe
Allen
he goes
Robinson
after
finally
Tyson
had a good
Hill
game.
and try to get some rushing yards from him.
Oh boy.
My next guy that I'm not super high on this week, we'll go over to Luke's team, and a guy he just recently acquired, Demaryius Thomas. This week they go on the road up to New York against the Jets. The Jets are 14th ranked versus the pass. They're middle of the road team. That's not necessarily my concern. They've only given up 5 touchdown passes so far this year, and Emmanuel Sanders has emerged as Case Keenum's absolute favorite target this year.
And I was a little, just not off the topic too much, but did you notice they didn't have Sanders in the slot much Monday night? And that was the best wide receiver DB matchup, and Denver didn't use it.
No, there's a couple things there I didn't agree with necessarily, but yeah, that was definitely one I noticed, and that's where Sanders has always been a really good slot receiver, and he can work both outside and in the slot. But yeah,
but Kansas City traded for that Kendall Fuller from Washington. He's their slot corner.
He's garbage.
He's a top 10. I believe he was a top 10 Pro Football Focus quarterback last year.
Every week up until Monday night, they've been giving up slot week in and week out, and it just didn't show up.
I'll have to look
Monday
into
night.
that.
Yeah, which could explain why you saw, even though he wasn't really targeted in the game, but you saw Deshaun Hamilton, in that slot role a handful of times, and he's the rookie wide receiver that they drafted out of Penn State. Penn State's all-time leading receiver. They say that he's actually probably the best route runner on the team.
I believe it.
I've
looked at him. He was one of my favorite receivers.
Yeah, he's going to be a guy that you're not going to see much of this year, but will emerge next year probably. But yeah, and again with that game, I think with Denver's run game kind of clicking with Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. I'm not super optimistic about Demaryius Thomas. So my third guy that I'm not super confident on, and this may surprise some people, is actually Mark Ingram. This guy's coming off the suspension, and what's going to happen when he comes back, we don't know. Like, what's going to be his usage? And they're playing the Redskins, are they not?
Correct.
Redskins defense is actually really solid. So both
8th against a run.
Yeah, both against the run and the pass. So what the usage is going to look like when he comes back, I think that's something that we should probably just kind of pump the brakes and wait and see. If you have to start him, go ahead and start him. But if you got better options, maybe wait and see.
Darky could go with Chris Thompson. I think he was a bust 2 weeks ago, but coming off a bye. It's a tough. I think he's almost got to plug him in there. He almost doesn't have a choice. With his other choice is Alex Collins.
Man, and he seems to be getting a little bit less and less time, and Javars keeps sneaking more and more. From us.
He still had a good game, but that's against a nasty Steelers defense. So
nasty.
I mean, they're just nasty as in terrible.
Nasty being bad.
Nasty as being bad. But Alex Collins fumbled the ball last week too, and Harbaugh doesn't really care for that. So Darky might not even have a choice there.
Yeah, I'd say it'd probably be between Chris Thompson and Mark Ingram there, but it's just one of those I don't really have super high expectations, and maybe he comes out and has a 20-point performance. Could absolutely be within the realm of possibilities. We just don't know. Then on to some guys that, some under-the-radar guys, 3 of my favorite sleepers this week. We'll go to Gary's team over there in San Francisco, and Matt Breida. I think that if he's healthy, if his knee is feeling well and he's healthy, I think he could show, this week. I think he could have a pretty good performance. He's going up against the Arizona Cardinals team. They're giving up an average of 140 yards, per game to the running backs, and so far they've given up 7, rushing touchdowns on the ground this year. So, that's definitely a susceptible defense, and a guy that I think that if healthy is going to be heavily involved. So I think that if he's a go for Sunday, I think you can roll him out there with some confidence. Another guy that we talked briefly on, very, very briefly on, was Corey Grant for the Jaguars. We got confirmation that Leonard Fournette is out. Corey Grant was kind of banged up a little bit last week, so he didn't have a ton of usage and snap count, but he's finally healthy. So and I feel that him coming out of the backfield, I think that he's got a lot of potential for some targets. And he can catch 4 or 5 passes out of the backfield and get a handful of rushes. I think he could easily be, 15-point performance this week.
Now, he is on Stefan's taxi squad, so I mean he's got plenty of garbage on his running backs to actually pull him off. But will he?
Yeah, I mean, he's got Saquon Barkley and Todd Gurley. I just don't see him doing it.
I mean, you can get rid of C.J. Anderson in a heartbeat right now.
He's a drop. Yeah. Yep.
And I get the Doug Martin thing, a handcuff for a decent running attack, but
he doesn't have. He's just.
I meant more of extra insurance for when Lynch does go down, because that will most likely happen.
Okay, and then so my last guy. So we talked about him just for a second earlier. This guy, he's a rookie. He's kind of making his debut, and if as a rookie wide receiver and you want to make your NFL debut, what's going to be like your best friend? How about a Hall of Fame quarterback, right? And I'm talking about Marquez Valdes-Scantling from the Green Bay Packers. And right now he's kind of a product of his environment and a situational type guy that could be in a prime position to absolutely break out this week. You got Devontae Adams. He was limited to practice today with a calf injury. Geronimo Allison, he didn't practice today. He's still in concussion protocol. And Randall Cobb didn't practice today with a hamstring. So where are your options here? So this guy's going to come in and immediately be thrust into a position where he could see a lot of volume coming from a Hall of Fame quarterback who can put the ball in the money and do it often.
Yeah, but who has room to put him on his team?
Well, that's
if you want a 1 week, if you need it.
That's the thing, is like this is going to be a guy that you're going to need to grab and maybe prepare yourself to play just 1, maybe 2 weeks, depending on how these other 3 guys.
And with their small rosters, that's tough to do. It really is. On your main roster, there are people. JJ's running with 19. I'm running with a couple on my taxi, but I'm not going to really go out of my way to pick up a 1 week wonder. Stefan's only 2 guys over. So,
but he shows up this week. He plays, has an outstanding game. Will he be picked up next week?
Oh, if he does, he will be.
But what would his value be going forward? I mean, you're going to be just as buried on the depth chart as you were last week.
I think going forward, his value is absolutely minimal.
Agreed.
But for someone looking for a flyer this week, I like him. I really do. I like him a lot.
Okay. One thing that we did not have time to go over last week, and really didn't know about it, was the trades that have gone on. So there was 2 trades last week, both involving Shannon and the Donkeys. Shannon did give up Demaryius Thomas and got Ryan Grant in return. Good trade, bad trade, kind of a wash.
No, I think maybe right now, I think Shannon kind of gets the edge, but long term, I think it's very one-sided. I think Luke comes away with a clear winner here.
Because Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah, because Demaryius Thomas has been a proven wide receiver number 1 in the past. He's still got that talent, that big play potential. He's kind of been down all year, so that boom week is coming, and he's a target monster.
But is Cortland Sutton going to possibly cut into Demaryius's playing
He very
time?
well could, and who knows how long Demaryius Thomas will still be in Denver. Like, there's a world that exists where Demaryius Thomas gets traded this year.
If he doesn't jump for these balls that are a little bit over his head,
yeah.
Sutton's going to be on the field
Now,
a lot more.
now Keenum did overthrow him a little bit there, but it did look like he gave up on that a little bit.
Now, the other trade was Corn Ranch gave up Rod Smith and Devontae Adams and got David Johnson back. I really don't like this out of Corn Ranch again. This was another trade I didn't like of his. I'm starting not to be a fan of David Johnson. David Johnson had one big year 2 years ago. He was out the year with the fluke broken wrist. But even his rookie year, he was nothing special. He absolutely had the 21 touchdowns 2 years ago. Phenomenal. Incredible. Over 2,100 yards total offense. But I keep going back to that rookie year. 900, that's okay. But that's on 226 attempts. He's going to catch a lot of passes, which he's absolutely not this year. That's a dumpster fire of a team.
That's the issue right now. I don't think that it has anything to do with David Johnson or his talent. I think he is still an elite level running back talent.
I don't think he's only had one elite level year.
And did you actually see what they did with him this past week? They lined him up as a wide receiver, and he was running wide receiver routes. It's like you have to formulate touches for him on the outside because the offensive line can't open up holes for him.
But
there's nobody.
He still only had four targets.
There's nobody else there in that offense right now. So what you have to do as an offensive coordinator, you have to tailor your whole offensive scheme around getting this guy involved.
Yeah, but look at that, 22 for 71.
But
yeah, that's not even.
I
close
still
to 4 yards to carry.
like this. I still like this trade for Torrey. I really do, because you can there's a lot more depth out there at wide receiver, and I'm not saying there's depth that can equal a Devontae Adams level type of talent, because there's not. He's still Devontae Adams is a top 20, top 15, potentially even top 10 wide receiver.
You gotta remember, David Johnson is will be 27 years old in December.
Yeah, he's young.
Which that's not exactly young for a
in running back years. He's still got 3-4 more years
theoretically.
And the funny thing is, if you actually look at his production this year, he's been over 15 points per week, except for week 2. Mm-hmm. Now, most of us would probably take a 15-point week out of our running backs.
Absolutely. And the only reason that looks bad is because the expectations that some people had coming into the season for him.
But, okay, why I'm saying that's bad is because Devontae Adams is younger, in a way better position to put up fantasy points.
Devontae Adams disappears when Aaron Rodgers does.
Well, most wide receivers do. Antonio Brown always
Exactly.
did when
And you
Landry
got
Jones.
Aaron Rodgers, who's semi-injury prone. He's got a little bit of a banged up knee. If he goes down and Deshaun Kaiser comes in,
That's a big if, though.
right. So there's, I mean, it's either way you cut it. I mean, there's risk involved in every trade, but I think long term, I still like this trade for Torrey.
You know, when Devontae average,
It's a really
Devontae-
even trade.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can get people that are siding on one way or the other, that's an indication of a good, even
that's-
trade.
Devontae Adams was getting almost 11 targets a game.
Plus, he's probably
And-
looking at having Derrick Henry, and does he really want him around for next year?
And that's another thing, too, is that, we may decide that, okay, well, Shannon won this trade or Torrey won this trade or whatever. But
No, I
based
think
off of team needs, if you're in a position where you need to fill a position, you've got some depth at running back or you got some depth at wide receiver, and you go out and you get another guy, you may sometimes lose that trade, but benefit and build your team.
I think this just goes back to the first trade that Torrey made, when Torrey hit the panic button and traded Bell for Henry and Deion Lewis. That was a huge.
It's possible, but
It could be, but I mean,
I didn't mind the trade.
I mean, you look at it, and
but say something happens to an injury-prone Deion Lewis, which has happened.
no.
What
I
happened
agree.
when DeMarco Murray was out of the picture last year in those last couple games? Derrick Henry was a legit running back one. And he's getting a lot of volume, actually. He's getting a lot of volume. It's just a matter of time before I think he starts to kind of come into his own.
I'm not a big Henry fan, mainly because, I mean, how many running backs are 6'3", 250? There isn't any. And there isn't any for a reason. Those guys cannot get their pad levels down low enough. They're going to end up being injury prone. I mean,
You're not supposed to lead with your helmet anyway.
Whatever. But I mean, look at the stats this year. I'm not trying to beg on Torrey here. So Torrey, don't take that I'm begging on you. I get it. It makes sense. I don't like it.
Torrey, I'm with you. I like that trade for you.
So the last thing we'll take a look at is this week's matchups. You know, we saw some of the great matchups from last week, and this week we have Jarvis and Kroll.
Look out, buddy.
Yeah, again, two division leaders there.
I'm actually pretty nervous. Kroll's got a monster team.
I mean, Kroll scores.
Who's missing people of week 5? Anybody?
I don't think we're really bye-ridden this week between myself and Kroll.
Kroll is without Tariq Cohen.
But the thing with Kroll, and it could be his Achilles heel, is he's got Breeze, Kamara, and Michael Thomas all on the same team. So if they run into a defensive juggernaut and they get shut down, his week is in jeopardy.
And that's against the Redskins, who have had
a very good defense.
absolutely.
So that's the bright spot that I'm looking forward to in our matchup anyway.
The
You're
other
going
one is
hail Redskins.
Oh, I will be. HTTR, baby.
the other one is Kroll again with Will.
With Will.
Will's without Mike Evans, which is pretty big. But Kroll's without just Cohen, so that's really not that big of a deal. But it's a pretty big drop off from Mike Evans to
Quincy Enunwa.
Quincy Enunwa. It really is.
And Kroll, look at that. He pulled up Ridley and is starting him. Throws him in the starting lineup this week.
He actually, he started them last week too. I do believe.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he did. He did. It was the week before that he didn't.
Yeah.
It was the week before he didn't. Yep, there we go.
So that's a very good move. he's still going to have Robert Woods and his 33 points last week sitting on the pine. But you can't really sit Deshaun Watson or Breeze for Robert Woods, can you?
I don't know.
No.
You start
So-
Ridley, Thomas, Woods, and Sanders.
Who are you going to sit on the bench?
Cole,
Well, I can tell you right now,
Terrence Williams.
What? Get out of here! Get out of here!
I
Where's
can
Where's that damn mute button again?
I can tell you right now, all of the guys out at the Big Apple are going to hear a whole heavy dose of me cheering on the Redskins Monday night while we're bowling, because Curl's going to have all three of those boys going Monday night.
Especially if it's a tight point night between you guys.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there's some other definitely good matchups this week.
Shannon and Stefan. That could be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Shannon and Tori. Yeah, right now the standings are fairly lopsided, but I don't see that continuing. We're outside of our division right now. You're seeing division leaders play division leaders. They're gonna be knocking each other off. Now, the guys that are sitting at 1-4 and 2-3 and 3-4, whatever, these guys are gonna start picking up some wins. And then once we get back into our division again, I think next week, that's when the bye weeks really are going to come into play. Yeah, and this week, we already see the bye weeks are coming into play. So it's going to continue to be exciting. I mean, we got a ton of season left.
Yeah, because we got bye weeks going until week 11. Is that when they finally stop? Did they make that change?
I believe they did. I think
So we got another 6 weeks of bye weeks. So this is where it's fun. This is where
So all the way through week 12.
through week 12. Okay.
This is where roster management, this is where waiver wire acquisitions, start-sit decisions come into play. This is where the rubber meets the road, and this is my favorite time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, week 12 could be very dangerous because you got KC and the Rams, so there's going to be a lot of good players out that week.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So right now, if the playoffs started right now, it would be Jarvis, Will, and then Kroll. Or actually, it'd probably be Jarvis would have the number 1 seed right now, then Kroll, and then Will with the 3rd seed. The 4th seed, looking like Shannon Stefan,
Mm-hmm.
and then Shannon at 5-2. I'm gonna assume 709. Yeah, looks like I would get in on my points.
Well, look at Gary. Hold on.
Where's Gary? Whoa! Oh boy! I'm sorry. I'd be looking at the outside. Listen up.
Gary would be doing a happy dance, man.
Yeah.
All right, Flip. You ready to trade that number 1 overall pick?
You mean that 6th overall pick? Right?
Yeah.
So, okay, well, let's wrap this up, and we definitely had another good show tonight. We appreciate you guys listening. We do this to screw around, definitely, but this is a way to interact with you guys, because we don't get to see you guys on a weekly basis. We'd love for you guys to come down and watch football on a Sunday with us down at Cunningham's or whatever. And be sure to, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so
Intentional streaming.
so you know when we're going live.
Intentional streaming for intentional hearing.
So hopefully we did a better job than we did last week, and I thought we did a damn bang up job last week. So thank you all, Gary, very much, and we will see you guys again next Wednesday at 7:45. Thank you very much for tuning in. Bye.
Good luck, guys.
Check you later.